Great. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in for tonight's investment session seminar. And we're so excited to have you. And I think we're going to go ahead and take it away. So thanks for tuning in for everyone who has joined us. All right, so my name is Courtney Power Stoneman. I'm a sales representative with the Peggy Hill team. And of course, I am joined by our very favorite people in the industry, Mr. Nick Leclier, who is the CEO and principal broker at Mortgage Wellness. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Courtney, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So excited. This is gonna be great.
Good. It's going to be so good. So much good information that we have here. So I'm really excited to jump in. And then, of course, we have the wonderful Peggy Hill, who is our CEO and boss lady over at the Peggy Hill team. So that is who we are. And thank you so much for tuning in. At any time, guys, feel free to jump in the chat. We've got someone monitoring the question. So never hesitate to type something in there. And if we can't answer it on the live, we'll definitely make sure that we answer those questions later on. So we're going to go through our agenda now for tonight to see what it is that we are going to get up to. So of course, welcome to everyone. And if you are not already on mute, I think everyone is. That's great. We've been doing these Zooms for a while now. And we're going to go through quite a bit of information. So we've got market statistics and updates with Peggy Hill. We've got 3 featured listings that have already been sold, but to show you what list price for sold price looks like, a whole, good amount of information on investment properties, what that looks like. Then, of course, a question and answer period towards the end. So first and foremost, we're going to just jump right in. So Peggy, I think it's you. We're going to start with you and your market statistics and a little bit of an update. So Peg, take it away. We always love hearing from you.
And Peggy, I'll just stop my share. You can go ahead and share your screen if you like, if you have any stats or anything that you want to share. Does that work okay for you?
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, that's great.
Perfect.
Let's see. I'm trying to open a desktop that doesn't have a lot of tabs open.
You can see it.
I get into a lot of trouble by a lot of people that I am a tab fanatic.
You are.
I opened a new incognito window, so no.
I love it. I love it.
So I wanted to share with you the stats. So we get weekly breakdowns right now, which is great. I love these weekly breakdowns because this market changes so quickly, so drastically, and every week is a different show. So if you're looking to my left, hopefully it's my left, you can see the weeks over week for March. So the first week of March, the average sale price was up 43%. New listing.
Wait, sorry, go back. The average sale price was up how much?
43% since
holy smokes
2020. Yeah
that is definitely something that deserves some attention. So a lot of what we're going to be chatting about tonight in our feature sold listings as well is like historical, right? Like I'm going to show what some of these people bought these homes for in the 90s, the 2000s, and that sort of thing. But look at this, we're talking about just like 1 year there, right, Peggy?
1 year. So 2020
crazy
versus 2021. So you can see, and I mean, those are not the numbers we were used to, because right next to them, you can see 2019 over 2020. So we were used to an average sale price going up 8%, 3%. We certainly were not used to 43%, 40%, 34% the third week of March, 45% the fourth week of March, and overall with 41%. But what I really want to show you is that I also have February stats. And wow. I said weeks ago that our market peaked, and I truly believe that. Because first week of February, we were up 37%. Second week of February, we were up 50.4%. We've never been that high, ever, ever, ever. Wow. So we've never seen an increase like that, and we never saw it again. That's when it peaked. As you can see it now, historically, it peaked the second week of February, and not that 40% and 45% is shabby, but it's no 50%. So it did peak, but we're still getting incredible numbers. And the one thing that's encouraging about this market is I know a lot of people remember 2017 when we saw
Yes.
crazy prices. And in 2017, we went straight up. It's not the same this time. We keep going up and then we plateau for a bit and then we go up and then we plateau. So when a stock or a price of a house or anything plateaus a little, it builds a resistance. So the next time it comes down, it has to bypass that resistance. So it's a good thing that we're building plateaus. And I know a lot of people talk about the market dropping and falling and, the prices are going to, change, and they probably will. I mean, nothing goes straight up, but it's got to give you some comfort that we keep building new plateaus. I think the worst case scenario, if things were to shift, and the only way that they're going to shift is if they lock us up totally and never let any of us out of the house, which I hear is a possibility, or the interest rates go up. One of those two factors could change these numbers. However, I don't see either one of those on the horizon now. Nick would probably be able to speak to the interest rates. Do you see the rising interest rates, Nick?
No, and you and I have been chatting about this, like, the only thing that's going to really, like, not stop the market, not slow the market, but, like, I mean, decrease the market is, like, some sort of severe government intervention. I don't, and you said, like, lock us up forever. I mean, I think it's going to go beyond that. I should correct myself. Sorry. It has to go beyond that to see any sort of decrease. I mean, everybody thought that 2017 wasn't sustainable. I mean, that was a year-long conversation that 2017 prices were just too high. 2021 prices surpassed 2017 prices, not by a little bit, by a lot. So this is, what we call that new plateau, as you mentioned, right? Like, this is the price now. We're not going down. We may not be going up at 50%, year over year, but if anybody that's watched these presentations before knows that Peggy and I, when we do our numbers, and you'll see that in our presentation tonight, we predict a 3% appreciation every year. Like, and off the record, Peggy and I are like, Peg, should I use 3%? And you're like, maybe you should use 2% to be safe. And here we are talking about 50%, so even if we were talking about 7 or 8%, that would be fine. In terms of appreciation. But how much is interest rates going to influence that? Well, interest rates in the ones are still very possible. I had a client that just renewed with their existing lender 2 days ago. They got a 1-year variable. They just weren't sure quite what they were going to do over the next 12 months, Peggy. They got a 1-year variable rate at 0.99%.
Wow.
So, the question is then, if rates go to 3%, and they're currently 2%, is that going to matter? Is that going to, slow the housing market? No. If it goes to 3.5%, is that going to slow the housing market? Probably not. Again, going back to 2008, interest rates were like 5.99% for a AAA borrower for for a long time, for like a couple of years, right? So interest rates would have to not just change slightly, not change moderately, but change like in a huge way. And even if we talked about doubling, a 2.5% interest rate to 5%, which would never happen, we're still less than we were a decade ago, right? So ultimately, we're still in good shape.
So my only variable, and this is why I believe that prices won't sustain. I mean, they will. I don't have I'm not the sky is falling kind of girl. I do believe that prices will come down at some point. And I believe the prices will come down once everybody's immunized, once things go back to the way we used to live, once people start being let out of their homes. I do believe there's going to be a lot of spending, and with spending comes inflation, and with inflation comes rising rates. And I don't think you can avoid that. And the reason I say that is because I try to listen to the US more than I do to Canada, because we seem to be a lagging indicator of everything that's going on, where they're a leading indicator. Because they're so far ahead with the vaccine, we can kind of see what they're doing and how their markets are being affected. Yeah. Their markets are not being affected. Their real estate markets, it's crazy. There's no inventory there either. So nothing's slowed down, but they have, for the first time in well over a year, started talking about inflation and the rising rates. I mean, that's got to happen at some
Very interesting.
At some
Yeah,
point.
very
That
interesting.
has to happen. You can only buy your way into low rates for a certain amount of time.
It can't happen. Yeah, it can't happen forever. You're right. Yeah.
Can you speak on one more thing? I just want to show you guys. I know you can still see my screen. So there's two lines here. One is Simcoe County, the other one is Barrie. This is months of inventory. So the months of inventory for Barrie is 0.6. It's actually less than that. It goes till the end of March. And then for Simcoe County as a whole, which is ridiculous, is 0.04. So it's less than a month of inventory. It's still a very strong seller's market, very, very strong seller's market. I don't know how much longer we stay in this kind of crazy territory, because this is crazy territory. This is emergency, get your houses on the market, because we're never going to see these things for a long, long time. But yeah, it's still under a month. We need to get to 3 months to get a balanced market. So it's still under a month.
Yeah.
But Nick, can you speak on one more thing? I want to stop there, and I want you to speak on one thing.
Yep.
Because I have heard, I hear a lot of people talking about that the government is changing the rates. And I know the government is not changing the rates. They're changing the stress test. And personally, before you tell everybody, I'll tell you what I think, because I like to.
Okay, sure.
I think the government is desperate to try and tell us something to try and get this market to cool off a little. And they've decided to talk about the 30-year AM and the stress test. Can you tell me how insignificant is it? Fake news, Nick? It's fake news.
Yeah, I posted a 2-minute video on this yesterday. You can check it out on the Mortgage Wellness Facebook page or on YouTube. It's and it's on my personal page as well. It actually got a lot of attention because it was just really real. I mean, like, the stress test is already here, right? Like it's been here for 5 years now almost. And when the stress test was initially introduced, it decreased affordability by 20%. Brought a $600,000 buyer to a $500,000 buyer, brought a $500,000 buyer to a $400,000 buyer. So, people like Courtney, who had a whole list of buyers, running around, putting offers on homes, like, 12-hour days, we had to say, stop, put your car in reverse, bring all your buyers back to Mortgage Wellness, because they all need to be requalified. But did it rebalance the market? Did it really? I mean, the stress test was introduced in 16, and then the market went nuts in 17, right? So, fast forward, they've adjusted the stress test. So this isn't a brand new thing. I had somebody call me yesterday and say, I found a house. It's not really the one I want, but I know I need to buy it before the new rules take effect. No, that is wrong. Nobody should be saying that. The new stress test affects only those with 20% down, which is like 3 categories of people. Those that are, selling and buying for the most part, right? They're going to have 20% down. Real estate investors need 20% down. And those refinancing need 20% down. Now, there's another category, which is those buying over $1 million, but that's less common in our market, of course, right? So, all they did was those with less than 20% down could qualify at the current stress test, right? So, less than 20% down, first-time home buyers, 5% downs, that sort of thing. 4.79, 25-year amortization. Now, Courtney sells her home and buys a new home and puts 20% down. She can qualify at the same 4.79, right? But 30 years. So the policymakers looked at this and said, wait, one category can do this and the other category it's easier for. We need to level out this playing field a little bit. So let's increase the rate that these people have to qualify at so that it's the same qualification numbers. That's all it is. It's a 4% reduction in affordability. So as long as you're working with someone who didn't, quote you at the very top of your budget, you're fine. As long as you're not buying at the very top of your budget, you're fine. And as long as you're not trying to overspend, like, I tell somebody that they're good for 900,000, they come back and say, can I go to 950? That's not the, this new rule change will affect that buyer. Generally speaking, we are not going to see a 4% reduction in prices because of this. No. It means that the person that qualified for $1 million is 960. Yes, it absolutely means that anybody that's buying a home with 20% down should speak to their mortgage broker or mortgage specialist just to like make sure that the rule doesn't affect them. But let's get over the fake news, because I mean, everybody should do their due diligence, make sure that the rules don't affect you, and let's move on. Because there's a lot of really great positive things to focus on rather than this, for example.
Totally. Thank you.
Okay.
And we did get a quick comment on Facebook about, yeah, we need more inventory, but where do the sellers go when prices are so crazy? And I definitely experienced that as an agent myself. So is there any, quick words of wisdom we can give to those people that are concerned about where do I go or what do I do?
I think this is a great market for specific buyers, or sellers. I think this is a great market for a last time seller. I think a last time seller cashing out right now has got it made in the shade. I think it's good for people that are relocating. I don't think you should sell your home for the sake of selling your home. That's not what this is about, because you're going to have to buy one. But if you're moving out of town, if you're changing locations, if you're going to a different market, this is a great market to capitalize on the equity that you've built. And that's really my take on it.
And Peggy, there's something else to be said as well. You and I chatted about this personally. Like for my personal situation, I said, I have a rental property. I've made a ton of money on it. And there's an opportunity for my family's life to be changed by taking advantage of this market. I can sell this home and virtually pay off my mortgage, my personal mortgage, which is going to significantly decrease my output. And then I can start, my daughters are going to be 11. Like I, start putting away for her university and those sort of things, right? Like redirect that money somewhere else. So if you can positively impact your personal life by divesting of investment real estate right now, or cottages or condos or anything right now, those are very safe sales for sellers. It's not always just a primary residence. This is, I saw one of your agents posted in the last couple of weeks about, sellers that had a really emotional sale. It was like, it must have been their family cottage or something that they'd sold after like 40 years. And that was the end of their journey, Peggy, but that was going to change their life. They're not just doing that for fun. They're selling the cottage. They're going to maybe start a living will. They're going to give living inheritances. They're going to pay off their own mortgage. They're going to go travel. There is absolutely a way for you to impact your own personal life by maybe divesting of investment real estate right now. And a lot of the sales that are happening in this market are rental properties, right, Peggy?
Unfortunately so. And I'm only saying that because
I know.
Renters,
there's another side to this, right?
The renters are feeling it. If you guys thought that it was really hard to buy a house in Barrie, try renting one. It's literally impossible. And I get taking money off the table. I mean, it's fiscally responsible to cash in on an investment when it's made you a ton of money. I get that all day long. However, this is still an incredible market to invest in. I don't care what the prices are at. We're cash flowing all day long because the rental market in Barrie is incredible. It is probably one of the hottest rental markets on the planet. I mean, we're talking Vancouver, Barrie, like that's insane. Like Vancouver and Barrie should never be on any.
No, Vancouver and Barrie should never be on any.
No. And Peggy and Courtney, the three of us were talking before the seminar, like, I have these little apartments downtown beside my office, 1-bedroom apartments that are being rented for $1,700 a month right now.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of really good, really fantastic rental prices. In Barrie, I just listed back in February, a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit in a legal fourplex. We had 5 offers for 5 different people that were looking to rent.
And qualified people. They were
qualified. Yes. Qualified people. So switching gears here, because I got to keep you two on track or you'll just
thank you.
That's what I'm here for. But we're going to talk about 3 featured sold listings. So these are all listings that have sold recently in our market. And we're going to talk about things like list price versus sale price and original price. And this is where, Nick, you're going to jump in and give us all the details and information that we need.
You got it. And Peggy, you had a great segue there because, you know, with every one of these rental properties being sold, there's a couple of myths to bust here. I mean, okay, let's be very clear, as you mentioned, Peggy, because I don't want to brush over that. There is unfortunately a lot of tenants being displaced as a result of people selling their rental properties, right? That is absolutely a very sad thing for sure.
And that's really why I wanted to do tonight's seminar. Aside from raising awareness, I think as somebody who works in real estate and who is responsible for placing people and displacing people, I really wanted to bring awareness to the quality of tenants that are out there and the amount of tenants that are out there, and the possibility that if you ever thought you wanted to be a landlord, this would be the perfect time, because you're going to have 5 to 10 people to 20 people offering. They're going to be offering you a year's worth of rent up front. They're going to be offering you the moon. And like I said, this was an awareness thing for me. I really think it's important that investors understand that this market can still cash flow.
Absolutely. And that is going to be the focus of our next, say 5 or 6 slides here. So what we did was we took 3 featured sold listings. Now, Peggy, these are not your listings. These are just, I asked you for just great listings. Yep. And Peggy literally just said, hey, 1, 2, 3. I got, you know, we were screen sharing this morning. I said, can you pull up 3 listings that sold between 500,000 and 600,000 thereabouts? Anyway, I think a couple are over, but that's okay. We'll go through them, and are very rentable and sold in the last, you know, month sort of thing. Just go ahead and send them to me. So we picked out 3. So Peggy sent me 6. I grabbed 3. And Peggy, I'm going to go through the numbers with you. Some of these numbers I've shared with you. Some of them I have not, because I want to see your real, like, candid reaction. Courtney, you haven't seen it either, because this is really cool stuff.
Can I tell you why I didn't give you any of our own listings?
Yes.
Because we get way too much money for our sellers now. Ours don't cash flow.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So these are, you know, what we have here in the center is a fully detached home. On the left, you have a semi-detached home, and on the far right, you have a townhouse. Okay, so the rental figures that I used for these homes, and I think we'll all agree, was $2,500 for the center one. The center one I used $2,500 as well, because it had more bedrooms. And the one on the far end, I think I used $2,200. So I'll go through some of these numbers here for you. And yeah, did I pause screen sharing here? Can you see my screen? You can still see my screen. It says your screen sharing is paused. Okay. Let me just see if I can stop the share and restart the share. If you could just let me know. Yeah, we're good now, right?
Yep.
We're good? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. So, so 3 listings, and really the myth that we want to dispel here is we get tons of people that say, Peggy, we've heard it how many times, you can't invest in this market and still make money, right? And what we want to show is that you absolutely can. Okay. So what I'm going to show is, you know, what it listed at and what it sold at. We know that houses are selling over asking, right? Like, that's a reality. This is the world that you live in right now, Courtney, right? Like, every deal is over asking, multiple offers, competing offers. People are paying over asking. So what I'm going to show you is list price, sale price, but I'm going to show you some other really cool stuff. So let's start with the first one. Okay. All right. This is 22 Sylvia. Now, I know this house. It's listed at, it was listed at $499,900.
Did you party there?
No, I did not party there. No. No, I'm attached professionally to this house in a way. This is not my house. It's a client's house. I think I know this address. Listed at $499,900, sold at $565,000. Now, like, Peggy, is that like, that's not crazy over asking price, right? Based on what we've seen. Courtney, maybe you can comment as well. That's not ridiculously over asking, right?
It's kind of the norm right now.
Okay, cool. So $499,000 list, $565,000 sold, originally purchased in 2011 for $213,900. Just going to pause on that for a moment.
When?
Originally purchased in 2011 for $213,900. So the appreciation on this home is $351,000 in 10 years, okay? The appreciation is more than the purchase price. You see how that works? You add the 2 together, you get the sale price. Like, it is crazy, right? Now, people are going to say, you know, that bus has left. right? That train is gone. I can't get back on that train. I can't buy this house and make money. And here's what I want to show you, okay? At $565,000 as an investment property, if you put 20% down, $113,000 down, your mortgage would be 450 grand, but your estimated mortgage payment would be about $1,700. I took the taxes rate from MLS, and it carries for about $1,980 a month.
And this property just sold March 24th. So this isn't historical data. This is just a couple of weeks ago.
This is in the current market, right? Now, Courtney, if I said, Courtney, I just purchased this house, can you find me a tenant for $2,500 for this property? I think you could find me a tenant, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This rental market is crazy. So I use $2,500, and anybody that's watching, if you don't want me to use $2,500, I'm happy to send you the numbers at say $2,000. Okay. Because here's what I want to show you.
But why? You're going to get at least 2,500.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So the cash flow is this number minus this number times 60 months, assuming a 5-year term. Okay. Now the principal pay down on the mortgage is $56,000. It's $55,927. Okay. So we won't get too deep into this, but with today's interest rates, even if you take a 30-year amortization, you will pay more principal than you will pay interest. Okay. Because the interest rates are so low. So you pay about $56,000 in principal without doing anything. That's without going bi-weekly. That's without making lump sums or anything else. Now, I put 3% appreciation on this. So, starting at this number right here, so today's value, 565, 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%, 3% for 5 years, that's $90,000 bucks. So Courtney, the 20% down payment is 113, right? If I told you, you could give me $113,000 today, and in 5 years, I would hand you back the $113,000, plus in my other hand, I have $177,000 for you. Would you do that deal?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you would do that deal. So this is your 5-year return being $177,000 on top of the fact that you still have this equity, okay? Like I really want to draw everyone's attention to that. People will say, okay, well, I put 113 in and I'm getting 177 back. No, you get your 113 back, plus you get 177, right? So this is a $177,000 return at a 3% appreciation. Now, Peggy told us that year over year, we saw a 50% appreciation in 1 year. So I think we're being pretty darn conservative here, right? Yeah. So, anybody that tells us that they can't buy in this market, I mean, really, let's look at the numbers again. Listed at $499, sold at $565, originally purchased for $213,900. This seller won, right? Like I'm super happy for this seller. $351,000 in appreciation in 10 years. Okay, not to mention if this was a primary residence, this is tax-free, right? But if it was an investor that comes in to buy this home, so Peggy wants to buy this home, for example, now, Peggy's kids want to buy this home. They put 20% down as an investor. They carry for about $1,980 a month, $2,000 a month. They rent it for $2,500 in a day. Over 5 years, they make $31,000 in cash flow. The principal just pays down. This is just paying the mortgage. And at a very conservative appreciation. I mean, we're talking nothing like what we're seeing in this market right now. 3%. That means if you buy the house for $500 today, it's worth $515 next year. Not you buy it for $500 today and it's worth $650 next year, right?
And it's probably been almost 20 years since we've only seen 3% appreciation.
Like we're being so conservative in these numbers, right? This is a deal. We could all buy this home, cash flow it, make money, save for retirement, pay for kids' education, whatever you want to do. This is a deal, okay? Example number 2, okay? This is the detached home that I showed you in the center. Listed at $569, sold for over $600. Check out that next bullet point. Originally purchased in 1993 for $127,000. The next person that tells me that this isn't going to continue, I'm going to show them this slide, right? It has continued. Look at this trajectory over the last 28 years. There are pockets, 2017, 2021, but we are not going the other way, right? I mean, 28 years later, this family made an incredible $500,000 on this house. So the new buyer is still going to make money. And let me show you how. $611,000 purchase price, 20% down. It's all going to shake out to about $2,100 a month. Again, $2,500 a month in rental income. That is $21,000 in cash flow over 5 years. And you see, like, the mortgage is a little bit higher, right? So the cash flow is a little bit lower on this place. Still 20 grand. I mean, it's great. You may even get more than $2,500. Peggy, you made a comment before the presentation that you think this house would rent in the high 2000s, right?
You'll have a lineup, $2,500. You will have a lineup of people begging you to lease this to them.
Yeah, 27, 28, $2,900 is sort of what you were thinking. So again, we've gone very conservative here. The principal pay down, that just happens. You just pay the mortgage and that's what happens. 3% appreciation every year. You make $180,000 in 5 years. I could, I would almost, not quite, but I would almost go on record by saying you're going to make a lot more than that, right? This is a 3% appreciation and this is a very conservative rent. And this, most importantly, is today's numbers, right? This house just sold for $611,000. This, anybody could, now they have to be the winning and worthy buyer of this home. Like, they have to be the winner of the competitive offer, but anybody could buy this home, put 20% down, rent it out very quickly, wait for 5 years and make a great return on their investment. This is a great rental property. Look at how, like, it's turnkey, it's perfect, it's detached, and it's just going to continue to appreciate, right?
It's all brick. It's a little bit older, so the windows, the furnace, everything's been done. I mean, that's just a smart investment. It is.
And, we're a little biased because Peggy, you love real estate, Courtney, you love investment real estate, and so do I, but all three of us would buy this house. There's no question, right? Yeah.
Peggy has money before real estate. That's real estate.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So the most money that most people will ever make is from investment real estate. That's for sure. Or real estate in general. Okay. So example number 3, I love townhouses. I'm Mr. Townhouse. They've always been very good to me. I find great tenants. There's little maintenance because there's smaller yards. There's, only 2 sides of the house that I have to worry about. I make really great friends with all the neighbors. And I've always found it a very successful investment for me. So this house is on Pickett Crescent. It was listed at $499. Again, didn't sell crazy over ask, $565. Purchased in 2005 for $155. Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They made $410,000.
Yeah, these people, like, I think Peggy, I'll just interrupt you super quickly, Nick, but these are the people that are winning in this market. The people who bought in 2000, who bought in 98, who bought in 99, who bought from the builder. I just had a client on Gadwell who bought from the builder 21 years ago and made incredible money and was able to upsize. So, that's the buyer, the last seller, like the last sale that they're going to make. These are the people that are winning in this market.
Really? Yeah. Really? Because I beg to differ. They're not the only ones winning in this market. I'd like to show you something. Can I share for 1 sec?
Oh, we're just flying. I like it.
Absolutely.
I need to show you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sharing now.
But Courtney, you sold that house on Gadwall. I think I saw that one. It was $610,000, I think, right?
610,500. Yeah.
Okay, Court.
Okay, sorry. These were also my clients.
Okay. So guys, look at this. So these first-time buyers bought this townhouse last year. Let me see the date. Oh, yes, January 2020.
Yeah.
And at the time, they hesitated. It was a lot of money, $460,000. They had to pay over list. They had to fight to get it. And that was January 2020, pre-COVID.
There were still 4 offers on the property at the time.
Exactly. So now, fast forward, sold it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Courtney, you said there was 4 offers on it at the time when they bought it in 2020, when they bought it a year ago.
My clients bought it a year ago in February of 2020 at $460,000 when they bought it. And when we bought it, there were 4 offers. And
that's so good.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
And then when did we sell it, Courtney?
Then we sold it.
February 21st.
21st. Which was like right when the market peaked. So honestly, it was just the best possible timing for them. And 711. So in a year, I can't even do math that quickly because I
Yeah.
use calculators, but in a year. But that was, I think, more luck than anything, because I don't quote me. I mean, but I don't believe that this 50% year over year is a sustainable year over year.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
But they were already planning
we're
to
here.
sell, I think, though,
We're
right?
here.
Yes.
Guys, it may not be sustainable, but it doesn't matter because we're here. We're here
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I
Yeah.
think the winners in this, the true winners in this market, are the people that bought freaking 18 months ago and they're turning around and selling for 60% more than what they bought for. I
Yeah.
mean, people that have owned the places since 98 have had to put maintenance costs into it. They've had to put, these people didn't put anything into it. What they put into it, a welcome mat?
No, they literally did nothing. They painted, and
Okay.
they bought a new washer dryer, but then they wanted to take it with them, so they did.
And were they, you know, were they already planning to buy, Courtney? Like they were planning to sell and buy already, or was it the market that really got them excited to be like, okay, now's the time?
It was the market. It
Courtney kept calling them. Courtney kept calling every day.
Because because it was just, I also, you know, we had so many buyers for townhouses, and it was just, we just had so many buyers. So I always keep in touch with my past clients just to make sure they know what's going on. And that was all, that was it. We said Merry Christmas in December. And then next thing you know, they were calling to say, you know, we want to take advantage. And they actually ended up moving to Aurelia, buying a detached home, and like now they've got all this money in the bank, life changing, and you know, we bought for just under 600,000 in Aurelia. So
you know, that's the answer right there. Like people, you know, somebody asked earlier, like what happens to the sellers? And you know, the three of us have chatted many times and said, you need to change. Like you need to change. You can't sell a townhouse, buy a townhouse, or sell a townhouse and buy the little one on Garden that I showed you. You need to change the category that you're buying in. You need to change the area as well. You can't just choose one. So you went from a townhouse to a detached, but you need to go from a townhouse in Barrie to a detached in Aurelia. You need to go from a detached in Aurelia to acreage in Oro or Severn. You need to go from a condo in Bradford to a townhouse in Barrie. Like you have to change the area and the category in order to really take advantage of the upswing, right?
Or like a lot of people right now, they're just selling and moving to Nova Scotia because that is very cool. That's very
but that is very common right now. I don't know about you guys, but we are seeing a lot of that right now. One of my staff is I should say associates is on the meeting with us. She just messaged me directly. She gave me the street. I'll just tell you. So like Prince William Way area. This client bought in August of 2020 for $650, and we just reappraised it, not selling it, but reappraised it because, you know, we're likely, you know, refinancing or reworking their mortgage or something like that. They bought in August 2020 for $650. We just reappraised it for $850.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
It's pretty incredible. So we have a question actually in the chat. Maybe Peggy, maybe Nick, you can continue on with your slides while Peggy, if you can find some information.
Thank you.
A question about, is there any way we can show a house that someone may have bought 5 years ago and where the prices are, you know, that may have sold this year but was purchased 5 years ago?
Yeah, and you know, Peggy, you can. I'll keep on going through these numbers. If you can find something, that's great. For the person that wrote that comment, that's a really great question. Here is the awesome information that's tied to that. They can reach out to you guys. They can reach out to us on literally any address. Sold prices, original purchase prices. Any of that information is public record. You can get it. I can get it. We can pull it up on any address you want. So, you know, if you're driving down the street and you're like, hey, I know that's my neighbor and I know they bought 5 years ago and I want to know what's up there, reach out to Courtney at peggyhill.com and she can get that information for you. She can tell you what it sold for originally, what it sold for this time, what it sold for in 1988, you know, whatever you want to see as well, if it's an address that's specific. And Peggy, I know you're going to show us stuff that's just happened in the last 5 years, for example.
Yeah, so this is the stats from the Barrie District Real Estate Board. So the orange line is Barrie and the gray line is all of Simcoe. And as you can see, the average price 5 years ago for Barrie was $344,000. For Simcoe County as a whole was $335,000. Average price today is 750,000 for Barrie and 757 for Simcoe. So that's what the last, and let me show you, since we're looking, I think we can go even further. We can go from 2008, and this is what the chart looks like. So
that actually moves into the second question that the same person had of it. Do you think over time that this will level off, but will the prices hold? And I would even say, Peg, based on what you're showing us here, I mean, look at 2017 where we did have a similar peak, and then they just leveled off and sort of stayed pretty level. There was no massive decline all the way, anything too, yeah, it was steep maybe at the time when the government implemented that 16-point plan, but then they just leveled off and continued to climb. So do you think that it will level off, but the prices will hold?
The reason I'm bullish about Barrie real estate is this. We only have so much of it, and everybody wants to be here. So unless, something crazy, and the thing about Barrie and Simcoe County in general is that they keep adding infrastructure, they keep adding jobs. So it's not just a matter of house growth. They're just not adding a bunch of houses and nobody has anywhere to work. Like, everything's changing here. So as long as people still find Barrie an area attractive, you're not, and the thing is, when people come from immigration, when immigration starts back up and everybody's immigrating, they usually immigrate into Toronto. And then the people that are in Toronto get pushed out. And I mean, whether they're retiring or whether they don't want to be there any longer or whether they've seen better, but they're retiring north, and people are moving north all the time. So, I mean, we've seen it in Barrie where people in Barrie are moving north because they're so, it's just the way it goes. But as long as the immigration still flows into Ontario, like, Barrie is going to prosper. So we can definitely tell you that, will it keep going straight up like this? No, nothing ever does. Will it come back down? Yes, absolutely. But we made a base right around last year. We made a base at around here. And even if it were to fall again and fall hard, and I don't suspect anything's falling hard, but if it were to fall hard, that's what you would, that's your really bad number right there.
Well, and that's a great point, Peggy. And that's what I was going to say as well. Like, fall to what, right? That's what everybody wants to know. Like, fall, everybody, questions. Fall to what is really the question, because, I'm going to go to mine for one quick sec here and just show you here.
And I can answer, we just found a pretty quick example, and I think this was from Tammy. I can always send you that information afterwards, Tammy, if you want to shoot me an email, Courtney@Peggy Hill. But we just sold 46 Forsyth, and that's a pretty good example where they bought in July of 2006 for $399,000, and we just sold it about 3 days ago for $706,000. And that's a house of 5 years. So that's a really great example.
2016, you mean, right?
Yeah, 16.
Yes. So that's a great example. So was that a detached home, Courtney?
Semi.
It was a semi.
It's a semi. Okay. So $399,000 in 2016, $400,000 in 2016. Today's price, $7. You said $7?
$706,000.
Yeah. That is just awesome. And you won't find that anywhere else. So, Pickett Crescent, another great example. Like, you can still buy in this market and cash flow and make money. Okay. So I dropped this down to $2,200. I mean, I think what we've shown tonight is anybody buys this house and puts it up for rent at $2,200, 100 people will be lined up on the street for this beautiful house on Pickett. No question. Right? We're talking families. We won't get into the barriers of home ownership tonight because we'll reserve that. There's, spoiler alert, we're going to do another first-time home buyer session. And that's where we're going to be talking about the barriers to home ownership, the biggest barrier being down payment. So, we've seen it time and time again. Let's say Courtney has a sibling who's 22 years old. She has a boyfriend. They both work full-time. Maybe they're in school. And let's just say they had, for example, an unplanned pregnancy, or they wanted to start a family, or, one of them had a job that was affected by COVID. they both, for example, have great incomes. They both have great careers. We see this all the time, like young police officers. I had clients that were both young police officers. Their first year wages are not what their fifth year wages are, for example. So those people have great income, but to save $30,000 or $40,000 for a down payment is just not happening, right? So those people make fabulous tenants. They want to live somewhere with their new family, with their new baby. They want to grow into a home, right? And the barrier is their down payment. So those people make fabulous tenants at $2,200 a month, and they will stay there for 5 years happily, right? So if you are able to find those people as tenants, my gosh, $13,000 in cash flow over 5 years, principal pay down of $60,000, a very modest appreciation of $100,000, $171,000 returned in 5 years. You give me again $113,000. I will give you the 113 back plus $171,000. There's money to be made in this market. That is for sure. On any one of these three houses, you could make money, a lot of money. And there's many, many, many more that we can teach you about for sure.
And they all sold in this market within the last few weeks in multiples. So we're not picking special properties here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions about, anything that we just chatted about, any of those three feature listings, any of the numbers, the historicals, the cash flow, the numbers, just reach out, drop a comment. You can get a copy of this presentation. If you want any data on homes that have sold, you can reach out to Courtney. She's ready and willing to send anything to you guys right now, Courtney@PeggyHill.com. If you have any questions after the seminar, if you want a one-on-one, you can reach out to Peggy's team, Peggy. You can find Mortgage Wellness's information on their Trusted Partners page of their website as well. But what we're going to do next is I'm actually just going to present all about investment properties. Now, I said in 30 minutes or less, we have about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to try and rush through this here so that I don't keep anybody too long. But really what we're going to cover next is do's, don'ts, and myths. Okay, so these are the things that in 15 years of being in the mortgage business and, thousands of families helped, certainly hundreds of investors. These are the do's, don'ts, and myths that I've sort of, jotted down as the most important things to know about buying investment properties. This applies to first-time homebuyers as much as it does to investors, but where it really applies is to first-time investors, existing investors, and just anybody that just, loves real estate or is looking to get into real estate. So let's start with the don'ts, okay? Always best to start with the pessimistic view of this and work towards the optimistic, right, Courtney?
Right.
Okay, so number one, don't plan to own a total of more than 5 properties without needing extra capital or partners, okay? And that's because most banks don't want to see anybody owning more than 5 properties. Most programs, Scotiabank, TD, all of these lenders that we work with every day, they have a max of 5 properties, okay? So we have another presentation that if anybody wants to do a one-on-one with, you can reach out. It's called the Rule of 5. And the Rule of 5 says that Courtney can have her primary residence and 4 rental properties, or her primary residence, her cottage, and 3 rental properties, or her primary residence, her cottage, condo for her little sister to go to school, and 2 rental properties, okay? The Rule of 5. You want to plan for 5 properties. So if you're looking to get into investment real estate, start with the end in mind. How do we get to 5 properties? Now, not everybody wants to own 5. Some people want to own 1. But if you want to own multiple properties, you should have a clear plan to 5 and then another clear plan beyond, if that's your plan, okay? Number 2, don't plan on purchasing more than 2 properties per year. Things get very complicated, okay? So, we always have to sort of present an application to a bank, and then the bank's going to want to see that Courtney can purchase the property, rent out the property, and manage the property, that she's going to be successful at this. Now, we can sometimes do another one in that year, but banks like a slow, sustainable approach. They want to know that Courtney's going to be able to buy, rent, maybe renovate, and really sustain the expenses. Maybe 2 times a year, but not 3, okay? So let's walk before we run. Number 3, don't unnecessarily take on partners for the purchase of your investment property. We see this all the time. So we get calls a lot of the time around lunch hour where people say, hey, I'm in the site trailer with my buddy, and we're both electricians, and we want to buy an investment property together. And I'll say, great, why? Well, we think we'd make really great business partners. Okay, no problem. So tell me about Steve. Well, Steve's handy. Okay, who has the money? Well, I have all the money. Great. So do you think you'd qualify for it on your own? Yeah. I just want to bring Steve along because he'd be good. I'm like, hey, you may not want to let friendship get in the way of business here. So unnecessarily taking on partners could get in the way of business success, growth. If we enter one of those markets, as Peggy mentioned, where we see a little bit of a dip, you don't want to have to be selling in that dip. That's for sure, right? And likewise, if we're in this huge high market, you don't want to have a partner that's like, hey, Courtney, we should sell. We should sell now. We should take all the money. We should sell. And you're like, whoa. We committed to this for 5 years. And they're saying to you, well, we're 50-50. So if I want to sell, you got to sell, right? So you don't want to unnecessarily take on partners for the purchase of your investment property.
Or
Number
for
four.
anything, or for anything, really, or for anything.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Number 4, don't plan to use gifted funds for your down payment. Okay, so for a rental property, you cannot use gifted funds. For your own house, you can use gifted funds. If you have questions about down payment, reach out to my team. We're experts in this, but don't plan to use gifted funds for your down payment of a rental property. And number 5, this one's super important. Don't plan to receive rent in cash if you plan on purchasing more properties. Now, originally, when, I'd say 2007, 14 years ago when I got into this business, it was all about the lease agreement. Show me the lease agreement, show me that you have rent coming in through the lease agreement. These days, they want to see the lease agreement, your tax returns, your bank statements. They want to see everything, right? So if you take on cash rents and don't report the rent, it will affect your ability to qualify for future purchases. And that's why you don't want to take cash or rent in cash. Now, you can take it physically in the form of cash, but just, don't plan on not declaring it if you plan to purchase more rental properties. Any questions on that?
Those are all really great don'ts.
They're really great don'ts.
Really great don'ts.
This is usually what gets the most amount of questions. That's why I paused there.
No, it's awesome. Yeah. It's really great. I don't think I see any questions.
I think I saw one in the chat box, but it could just be for me. So I'll take a peek at that in a second when I can.
Great info. And Peggy has great hair. Oh, wow. That's all I see.
Okay.
Too funny. Yeah, okay, so investment property dues. These are things that you do want to do. So do have your mortgage resume prepared. I can absolutely promise you that if you come to a mortgage broker, a mortgage specialist, your bank, even a realtor, it flows all the way down with all of your ducks in a row. When I say your mortgage resume, your tax returns, they're labeled properly, they're named properly, they're in PDF format. I love when clients are like, hey, Courtney has shared a Google Drive with you, and it's like Courtney's tax returns and her husband's tax returns and mortgage statements and tax bills and lease agreements. You will get the attention of any mortgage broker, any mortgage specialist, any banker, any realtor if you are organized. If you don't show up for your showings and you send your mortgage broker or mortgage specialist documents that are upside down, backwards, and sent via text message and a photo, that is not having your mortgage resume prepared well, okay? So you want to have your mortgage resume prepared before you start this process. You will get the time and attention of banks, mortgage brokers, mortgage specialists, and realtors if you take this seriously and properly prepare your mortgage resume. Get your documents in order, get a plan in place, okay? I can't stress that enough. Number 2, do have your down payment available before you need it, okay? So anti-money laundering laws in Canada state that you have to show your down payment, the source of your down payment, where it came from, and any large deposit in your bank account has to be accounted for. In most cases, and Courtney, you've heard me in presentations to your team say this all the time, confirming down payment is oftentimes harder to confirm than income these days. If somebody works at Honda, they give you their letter of employment and 2 pay stubs, and their income's done. But their bank statements have deposits all over. They're putting money in and pulling money out of cryptocurrency investments, for example. Very tough to trace. So if you're planning for the purchase of an investment property, let's start to set that money aside, make your bank statements nice and clean. Let's plan for the purchase. Number 3. Go ahead. Yes.
Can I have a super quick question? We have someone asking, can a HELOC or a home equity line of credit be taken out on your primary residence? Can it be used
absolutely
for down payment, or do you need
I bought everything?
Yes. Yeah. It is my most favorite strategy. And maybe I think, Peggy, we're already planning on an investment property 102, where we're going to talk about how you actually do this. But anybody in this market that currently owns a home has an opportunity to get a home equity line of credit, draw out some equity, and purchase an investment property, because investment real estate has gone up. Actually, in fact, Peggy, I know you won't mind me sharing this, but this is actually how Peggy and I met originally. You know, I've been knocking at her door for several years. You know, the lonely mortgage guy that was trying to get her business. Now we're best friends. But you know, I remember that one of the first deals that she gave me was her own. And Peggy had taken a home equity line of credit on her primary residence to buy a triplex and a fourplex, you know, downtown-ish Barrie sort of thing. And all of the down payment had come from her home equity line of credit. And 5 years later, when I met her, she said, do you think we could like reappraise those houses, draw up the mortgage on them, and pay the line of credit back? And to the dollar, we refinanced those houses and paid 100% of the home equity line of credit back, meaning she drew her down payment. We waited for the apartments to increase in value. We refinanced those. We paid off her house. That is a textbook how it's done. And
while you're waiting, the interest you're paying on that line of credit is tax deductible. That's the only thing that's tax deductible. You can't deduct your mortgage. You can, however, deduct the interest payments for a rental property.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, what's really special about that as well is like, I mean, if we couldn't have done that, if the market didn't work in a way that we couldn't have done that, Peggy, you wouldn't have cared. You would have just said, hey, you know what? Like, let's leave it there then. Like, it's okay. Let's just go ahead and leave it. You know,
it was tax deductible, so it wasn't like it was costing me anything. It cost me nothing. My rental properties were free, and that's why I am so obsessed with doing these seminars, because I'd never had rental properties. I could barely afford my own property, but the only way I got them was using my line of credit and the money that I had in my home in order to make wealth.
Yeah, so you got it.
That's it. That's how it works.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. So do expect to pay more. And really savvy investors and my favorite clients understand this explicitly. Okay. When I say expect to pay more, I'm not talking about the price of the house. We already covered that. The interest rate will be more. The appraisal will be more. The legal fees will be more. Everything will be more expensive because of investment real estate. Okay. So the interest rate is more. The down payment is higher than if you were just buying your own home, for example. The legal fees are a little bit more because it's an investment property. So there's extra work that needs to be done. There's some things called like assignment of rents, which means if a borrower defaults on their mortgage, the bank wants to know that they can take over the rent. Okay,
tax deductible. They're all tax deductible.
These are all tax deductible. And these are why Peggy and Courtney and people like Peggy and Courtney are my favorite clients, because they're like, hey, whatever it takes to get into the investment, right? The most successful investors that I've spoken to, especially in this town, say they never focused on the fine details of the deal. They always focused on the big details. Stuff like, let me go back a couple of slides here. Let me show you something. Stuff like this. Do you think that an investor, if they knew that they could have purchased this home for $155,000 in 2015 and sold it in 2021 for $565,000, do you think they cared if their appraisal was $50 more because it was an investment property? No, they didn't, right? They focused on the big pieces of the deal, right? The big gains that they were gonna achieve through this investment real estate, right? So you have to expect to pay more, not drastically more, not twice as much. You know, the interest rate, in fact, that I used to calculate those numbers was 2.25%. It's pretty darn good, I'd say, right? So number 4, do expect to have 20% down. Okay, to buy investment real estate, you absolutely need 20% down. Now, there's some specialty programs as well, where if you're purchasing a home for immediate family or a cottage or something like that, there's some caveats, but generally speaking, for investment real estate, you need 20% down. And then number one thing that I want to sort of emphasize from this slide as well, do budget for maintenance, vacancy, and repairs. Now, I did not, full disclosure, budget for maintenance, vacancy, and repairs in the numbers that we covered, okay? Because I just wanted to show the high level opportunity, but I also used very conservative rents. I used no rental increases over 5 years. You know, like there's a lot of things that I didn't account for, both positives and negatives, but when you do the numbers, make sure you budget for maintenance, vacancy, and repairs. And I can help you do that. The numbers that I showed you guys, Courtney, with your clients that you sent to us, Peggy, your clients that you sent to us, we CC you on a lot of these emails. You see the full budget that we break down for clients. Hey, this is where you're going to win, lose, or draw on this property. So make sure that you budget for maintenance, vacancy, use, and repairs. If anybody wants any help with those numbers, we can help you with those for sure. And then, of course, the myths. So myth number 1, more is better. Okay, so going back to the don't slide, don't plan for more than 5 properties. Now, if I go back to 2007, I used to get a phone call and somebody would say, hey, I own 20 properties. Can you help me? And we would be like, okay, let's sharpen our pencil and get into this, right? Roll up our sleeves and let's go, right? Now, if somebody said, I own 20 properties, we'd be like, oh, geez, okay, let's book 2 hours to talk about this instead of 30 minutes sort of thing, right? Like, more is not better. And especially like we're seeing a lot of people that are going really north to start to look for their investments again. Like, I mean, beyond Sudbury, because they can get more properties, more units, more cash flow. More is not always better, okay? For the simple investor, a great little townhouse at $565,000 that you're going to get great return on is a perfect investment. More is not always better. And that flows into the second point where cheaper is not always better either. Okay. So, Courtney, I'm sure a lot of your conversations with investors begin with, can I go look at that $300,000 house in Midland that says needs work? And where it ends is the house on Pickett where they go, you know what? We should have just bought this to begin with. $565,000 townhouse where we're going to have a lineup of tenants. We're going to get a great family. They're going to rent for 5 years. We're going to make $200,000 on our $100,000 investment. This is just wonderful. So cheaper is not always better, right? We know that.
Not always better. Absolutely. And I think that I always used to be very intimidated by the word by investor. Like, you had to be someone who had all of these houses and all of this money. But I mean, I'm an investor. I only own one property, my primary, and then one rental property.
That's right.
I would consider myself an investor, and that's not out of reach for someone who either wants to get into the market as a first-time buyer who can maybe rent out their basement and then move on and buy another one down the road. So it's not, it seems really intimidating, but investors
one house
are just one house.
One house. Yeah. All it takes is one house,
I agree. I think that single family for a first is a really good place to start to get your feet wet.
Absolutely.
And it's the only money in Canada that you're going to make while you sleep. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, exactly. And that single house, like we have another seminar that we often host for clients, and it's called Just One Property. And the concept of just one property is, those who work for Hydro One, who are police officers, who are teachers, government employees with pensions, we know the value of those pensions, when they hit retirement, $1 million sort of thing. And that's really great. If they buy one house at the start of their career, right, at the start of their career and rent it out for the length of their employment, that 20 or 30 years, they should double the value of their pension. They buy a house today, it should go up by the same amount as their pension over the course of 30 years, right? So just one house is all somebody needs, really. I mean, certainly we can help you with 2 or 3 or 4, and like I mentioned, up to 5, but
start with one.
Start with one. Yeah, start with one good single family investment. Exactly. Myth number 3, if I have a 20% down payment, it will be easy. I really want to emphasize that a 20% down payment is the ticket to entry. It gets you in the door, right? You need 20% to play in this arena, but most people have that. Actually, I would go as far as saying almost everybody has that available in their house through a home equity line of credit, like we just mentioned. Myth number 4, title should always be placed in a holding company. There's very specific reasons and very specific circumstances of when somebody would want to hold title in a holding company. Typically, and generally speaking, not giving tax advice, but if somebody owns one property and only ever expects to own one property, they should maybe consider putting it in their personal name and not in the name of the holding company. And, probably the best one of all of the slides is the myth is that you can own enough houses to retire. Now, in all of my years, in all of my clients, we've done this like 4,368 times. I wish I knew the exact number, but we've seen this in 2 occasions where somebody only, they were what we would deem a professional investor, right? They just do properties. They just do real estate. And I'll tell you, Courtney, Peggy, myself, we work a lot of hours. These folks, these 2 folks that I'm referring to, I think work more hours than us because they're 1/3 property manager collecting rents and dealing with issues. They are 1/3 handyman or handywoman caulking windows and replacing bathtubs and everything else. I mean, they own like literally a small village of real estate, and they are 1/3 real estate investor where they're actually doing the math and cashing the checks and that sort of thing. So the myth that you can own enough houses to retire, I think it is possible, but the notion of owning enough houses to retire and not having to do any of the work, I think is a myth. So there's good 5 myths, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. We did have one really quick question, which I think maybe if the person who asked this question on Facebook wants to reach out to Nick at mortgagewellness.ca, it was, for a cottage, typically what do you need to put down? And I know there's a whole lot of factors in regards to where it is, and cottages may be another seminar first.
It is. It's already lined up. Spoiler alert on that one as well. We have I think 4 lined up, and one of them is cottages. So cottages are one of my very favorite things. I just posted a video to YouTube that you can check out as well. It's really cool. It's the 3 things to check out when purchasing a cottage. Spoiler, I'll tell you right now, you can finance an island, which a lot of people don't know. You definitely want a septic system, a flushable toilet, no outhouses, no compost toilets. You definitely want hydro. A lot of people ask about like solar off the grid. It's very popular right now, for example. And you want to stay away from that. Banks don't like that. But to answer the question in long form, you can buy a cottage with 5% down. That is absolutely possible. You can buy a cottage with 5% down. So 5% down is possible if it's like a house on a lake, is usually what I like to say. So, if it's let's say a cabin on an island, you could buy that with 10% down. So to answer the question, you could buy with as little as 5% down. And if it's like cabin on an island, like no heat source, lake water, you can still finance it but with 10% down. So I love chatting about cottages because I get to dispel all the myths. Like, people think it's not possible if I have to travel there by boat. It's not possible if it's 600 square feet and on pillars. It's not possible if it's, 2 season, for example. It's absolutely possible. So cottages start at 5% down. There's a whole bunch of criteria involved, but absolutely, if that person wants to reach out to me at nick@mortgagewellness.ca, we are cottage pros for sure. We do a ton of them, being in this area and being so connected to cottage country, that I could definitely give them some great info.
I think the biggest problem with cottages right now is there are none for sale.
That's right. That's right.
I don't have one.
So if you have
That's right.
and you want to sell it, there are buyers.
There absolutely are buyers. Yeah, I have a cottage, and often I'll just sort of draw in the map around the cottage as well, and just see what else is kind of like available there. There's never anything. There's never anything. There's really expensive stuff, but yeah. I sometimes wonder, like the $300,000 island cottage, what are those worth now? Who knows?
Who knows? For sure.
They're very, very, very hot commodities right now.
Courtney, did you know Nick had a cottage? Because I don't believe I ever got an invite.
I'm not much of a cottage guy myself, actually.
Yeah. I had no idea Nick had a cottage.
Yeah, my family enjoys my cottage more than I do. So yeah.
That's okay.
Well, we're just about over here now. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. Are there any last minute questions? You have, 2 fantastic resources if you're tuning in live on Facebook. If you are here, on our live Zoom, now's your chance. We had some really great questions. So thank you for everyone who, who did ask questions. We always love interacting, but I don't think anyone else in the background see any on Facebook or nothing in the chat. Awesome. Well, I guess that's it to wrap up our Investment Properties 101. Thank you so much for everyone who did, spend an entire hour with us. I know we really appreciate it. And thank you to Nick. Thank you to Peggy. Thank you to everyone who helped. And always, please reach out to us at any time. Call the Peggy Hill team, call the Mortgage Wellness Group. We're all here to help in any way that we can. If you have specific properties you want numbers on, if you have anything that you need, we're here to help, even if it's just to get the information that you need to make the most informed decisions. So thanks again to everyone, and we will leave it at that. And maybe next time we will see you at Investment Properties 102.
You got it. Thanks again for your time tonight, Courtney. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm in a really cool new building and it's a little echoey, so hopefully it's not too bad. So we are here with Investment Properties 102. This is our second session, sort of a follow-up from Investment Properties 101. So if you missed that, you can reach out. We'll definitely send you that. I'm here, of course, with Nick Leckway from Mortgage Wellness, my favorite person in the world. And sorry, Peg, and
Courtney.
and Peggy Hill herself. So we're really quite excited to get started and talk to you guys all about Investment Properties 102. And I think we're just going to start with the agenda and kind of go from there. So let me just see. Alrighty. If you have questions during this time, at any time, you can pop them in the chat. If you have questions after, you can reach out to Nick's team, Mortgage Wellness. You can reach out to our team. You know how to reach us. We're all over social media, so you guys can get in touch with us at any time. So without further ado, I think our good friend Peggy Hill is going to share her screen, and we're going to do a little bit of a market stats and market update, as we always do, which is my favorite part.
My favorite part too. I always, the most interesting part of it for me as well, Courtney, is how it changes.
Yes.
From week to week and session to session as well, right? So
yes.
I'm really excited to hear sort of like what's happening in the market right now and how it's changed since even our last presentation, right?
Yeah, which was only about a month ago, and it's
you got it.
Changed quite a bit. So take it away.
Yeah.
Peg.
Hey guys. So you know how I love to talk about the market, because really that's all I like to talk about. So I'll show you some stats, and this is for, I'm gonna knock it down to 2 years if I can. No, 1 year. Okay. I'll show you in the last year what the stats look like. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So
we see a bunch of lines and they're all heading up. So that's good for real estate investors, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good for everybody, really.
There's also opportunity because some of them
Yes.
aren't heading up. Some of them are heading down.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Innisfil is down in the average price. It's saying that Barrie is up, although we know it isn't. It isn't. Like, I don't know why. I have to be honest. Like, there's the difference when you're looking at the average price. A lot of times it's what's sold. So what has sold could be a lot of higher end stuff. We haven't really noticed a disruption in anything over $1 million to me. But in the 7, 8, 9, even the 6s, like it's funny how things aren't moving as fast as they were. However, you want to spend $1.5 million all day long, you're going to be in competition. It's crazy.
So when do you think that changed, Peggy? Like, how long has it been since we've seen, because it's not a major shift, it's a minor shift, or it's almost like a plateau, or it was hot and now it's simmering.
Yeah, I agree. It's a minor shift, but to us, it feels like a dead stop at days, because we were so hot and, everything was in competition. We were holding offers. Now, 5 out of 6 offer nights come and we don't have an offer. So unless it's a high-end listing or waterfront or cottage country, not even the townhomes are going into competition that much. So things have really changed. And I think the one thing in my mind that I know there's been a lot of talk about the stress in the news, and I know not everyone has felt it, but I think first-time buyers will feel it, especially. And so to me, that is an advantage to an investor, because investors and first-time buyers are sometimes after the exact same thing.
Absolutely. And you've heard me say it 100 times. My favorite property is a townhouse, right? It appeals to a first-time home buyer. It appeals to an investor. It appeals to someone who's maybe in a second stage of life, like just experienced a separation or divorce or a reset in their life, whether that's health or employment or matrimonial separation and that sort of thing. And retirees, downsizers, new to Canada, it just hits so many marks, and they're always highly marketable, right? So I was, before the really, really, really hot market hit, I was still saying buy a townhouse, right? And Courtney, Peggy, you guys, we've all talked about it as a group. Even at, and I'm going to show some examples, even at $600,000, you can still buy that property, rent it out for 20 something $100, cash flow. Be assured that you're going to get appreciation. The mortgage is going to pay down. Like the 5-year outlook on townhouses is still very, very good. So to hear that those aren't going into these crazy multiple offers anymore is like, it's just, I love it. I hear, it sounds like money to me.
I totally, and I'll show you another screen. This is month supply. So this is going back to April of 2020. So April of 2020 would have been the highest supply because we were all locked up. There wasn't much selling. So April 2020, we were at 2.2 months of supply. So Innisfil was at 3, Orillia at 2.3, and Barrie at 1.9. Now, the lowest it ever got was in Barrie at 0.3 of a month's of supply.
Yeah, we were joking about that in our last presentation. I said, like, what is that? And you're like, that's like a week of supply, right? Like it's 2 weeks of supply, right?
Yeah. If we got no new listings, there'd be nothing on the market. So now we are sitting for Barrie at 0.5 of a month of supply, which still, like, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but for us, it's a lot. We were used to like nothing. So Orillia, I have felt it in Orillia because we've had a few townhomes and such, and you can see them. You can see the townhouses starting to be affected now. And again, I don't know if that has a lot to do with the stress test, but I'm thinking it's got something to do with the stress test because there's Orillia townhomes that aren't selling, that are actually sitting on the market. So Orillia has 0.7 of a month in inventory, and they had even less than Barrie at one point. And then Innisfil, you're talking 1.1 months of supply.
Interesting. Wow. Which, again, as you mentioned, the difference between 0.5 and 1.1 may not sound like a lot, but it's almost double. Oh, well, it's double and then some, actually, right? So very, very, very interesting. So the opportunity to buy a small condo for an investor, a townhouse for an investor, likely even a duplex for an investor, those opportunities are there, right?
Yep, it's still all there. And in fact, I think it's easier now because especially in places like Orillia, like we couldn't touch anything in Orillia for months now. Like
Orillia is my favorite spot for property investment right now. That is cat's out of the bag. That is my favorite spot for property investments.
I did not know that, Nick, and I said Orillia, so
we're on the same page. Peggy, can I see that screen just for 1 sec, if you don't mind? Because I try and I talk to clients every day about the difference between Barrie, Orillia, and Innisfil as a market. And what's really interesting is when I'm talking to clients that are moving up from Toronto and you're trying to explain, kind of Simcoe County, I usually explain it in the shape of a cross, right? Like, north, and then the south being Innisfil, north being Orillia-ish sort of thing, and all the way up. And sometimes we even include Midland and that sort of thing. And then Barrie being in the center, right? And some of the peripherals being around it. But what I often explain to clients when I'm speaking to them, if they're moving here, if they're looking to invest in Simcoe County, is the difference between these areas and price point. Now, we've always seen Orillia be, at a lower price point than Barrie. It's always been cheaper. But you can remember a day, and I can too, Peggy, where Innisfil was cheaper than Barrie.
Yeah.
And it's not anymore, is it?
No. And especially in 2017, when the change, when the market stopped, Innisfil took the biggest hit, way more than Barrie took. But in all fairness, they had a lot more to lose because they went up a lot faster than Barrie did. And
interesting.
This time around, the same thing happened. Innisfil shot up, Orillia really shot up. So they have a lot to lose as well.
Now you had an average price, I think, up on the right-hand side a minute ago.
Yep.
If you can just click on that. Yeah, so that little stat on the right-hand side there, you see Innisfil is 735, whereas Barrie is 745.
Yes.
So that's a very interesting number.
Exactly. So they're saying so Innisfil has started to drop, which is why you're seeing that arrow going down. So they're up 30% year over year. Now look at Australia, 60% year over year.
Wow.
Seen the
Crazy.
most increase. That's why I tell you, if things have stalled out because it just got too fast, too much. And I'd love to I'm not in the camp that I think markets going to drop, and I'm not in the camp that I think this market's going to go on forever. That's not the camp I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, reality, this is real people. This is real advice of what I see. And honestly, what I see out there is a lot different than what it's showing. But I don't see a crash coming. However, I do see a correction of some type, and it's already here. That's the thing. By the time you're going to hear about this on the news, it's already going to be here and gone. Right. So and people say, well, the market could drop 30%. Big deal. That would only take us back to February prices, guys. It's not even a big deal. Like they talk about a 30% drop, like it's going to end, the end of the world. We just had a 50% increase over last year. Even if it dropped 30%, I don't even think that many people would notice offhand.
And this is the most relevant conversation that we can be having right now, because people, I mean, I'm sure you get asked every day, Courtney, you just got in from showing a house. I'm sure that came up in the conversation. Is the market going to drop? Every single showing, every single conversation I have about a mortgage, is the market going to drop? And I, Peggy, you actually loaded me with that answer is, okay, so if markets decrease by 25%, you're still up 25% over last year. And I'll take that return any day of the week, because I mean, there was times that like the biggest crash that we saw in Ontario was in the 90s, and it took a full 20 years to really recover from that. Like, if you factor in inflation to it as well, like we might have seen some years with 1 or 2% growth, you remove inflation, sure, that looks okay. You increase it, you insert inflation, it was flat, right? So this is really it's groundbreaking, right, in terms of appreciation. So when we do our numbers, you'll see in the presentation tonight, we're forecasting a 3% appreciation per year. So Peggy, tell me, are there any markets in Simcoe County that saw 3% appreciation?
No, they've all been double figures. But the one thing, and why I'm very passionate about this, I never tell people to do things I wouldn't do myself. And I own a lot of real estate because it's a no-brainer. But the other thing I wanted to say is that I spent years not being afraid to jump in. And it drives me crazy because other people were paralyzing me because they were telling me that the market's going to drop. So, being new in the business 20 years ago, I believed them. All those agents were telling me, like, you're stupid. Don't buy now. Wait till the market drops. Guys, I waited 5 years. I lost so much money by waiting. And even people that bought last year and they were so worried that they bought at the top of the market, those people made 50% on their investment this year. Like, jump in. If the market slows down a little bit, don't sell. It doesn't even make sense. And with investors, we have tenants that are going to be relatively homeless because we have such a shortage of inventory. When we get a lease, when we have a client that wants to lease out their property, we don't even put it on the MLS. We can't handle the phone calls. We lease it in-house because the calls are insane. Like, you will get people offering you more money for your lease. You will get a year up front. Like, they'll do anything to secure a property because we just don't have any. So that's my very passionate spiel about something I'm very passionate about because I've made a lot of money in real estate.
Which is exactly what we're going to be chatting about tonight. So thank you so much for those market stats. I mean, the fact that I can confidently say to my clients now, there is a chance that you could purchase a townhouse is like just so powerful, because I mean, those were the properties that were going the craziest, right? I mean, like, if there was a townhouse on the market, you weren't getting it, right?
No chance.
Right.
I think about townhouses from the perspective too of there are I think we have a townhouse listed right now in Maple for like 8 something, and it's an end unit. And that's how I think the future of Barrie, with the growth and the development, that you're looking at a townhouse now for 600,000, when sure, 2 years ago it might have been, or 4 years ago it might have been 400,000, but now, like, that's 600,000 now, and how much in the future, even if the market does take a bit of a correction. So
but and the thing is, it has already taken a correction, and that's why I want to get people to really realize it has softened already. Like that townhouse in Maple at 850 is an end unit. There hasn't been an end unit sell for 850. They're all selling for more. So the fact that the end unit is sitting at 850, it's already happened. And that's my fear, is that like everything you hear on the news is so lagging. Like I really want people to be aware. If you're thinking of jumping on a property, jump on it. Like, you know, if this market does suddenly in 6 months drop 10, 20, whatever, don't sell it. Like it doesn't, you know, just rent it.
So this is it, right? And we're going to talk about that tonight, Peggy. Is there's 3 components that every real estate investor should be focusing on, right? And appreciation is just one of them. The second one is cash flow, and the third one is principal pay down on a mortgage, right? So, you know, if they're scared of appreciation, if they think that this market is not going to continue to grow, which we know it will, focus on the other 2, right? Which is cash flow and principal pay down.
I think this is a really perfect segue, Nick. If you want to go ahead and continue to share your screen, we are going to share again 3 featured sold listings, none of which are ours. We actually also shared the same 3 listings in our Investment Property 101, but they're still incredibly relevant because of how soon they sold, and when they sold in a peak or really close to the top end of the market. So
it's funny, like we're all trying to think of the word to use for the market that they sold in, right?
Yeah, the top
because end. The top end of the market. I mean, Peggy, I think you can probably confirm this for us. Like, you know, these properties sold 60 days ago, for example, but maybe touching 90 days ago. And the reason we wanted to use them is because, you know, I'll show you the first one, for example, listed at $499, sold at $565. So, you know, if we're going to look at this house, for example, here tonight, Peggy, like, you know, what would you say would be different about this home in this market? I'm thinking you're probably going to tell me, instead of being listed at $499 and sold at $565, it's probably going to be now listed somewhere around here. And, you know, the buyer will get conditions and they'll be able to negotiate, and they may even get a home inspection, for example, right?
Correct. But I caution people, the pretty stuff still flies off the shelves.
Yeah.
So, but as an investor, I'm not looking for pretty. I'm looking for location. I'm looking for cash flow. I'm looking for location. That's what I'm looking for. And that property, I just wanted to pull it up, sold March 24th.
Thank you. Okay, so that's perfect. That's exactly what I was trying to show, which is, you know, for lack of a better term, we'll say the peak of this 2021 market so far, right? It was actually, I think you said February being the highest, but this fell right after that, right?
Pretty close.
Okay, so this home was listed at $499, sold at $565. So back to the conversation about appreciation. This home, it's public record, was originally purchased in 2011 for $213,000, $213,900. So 264% appreciation in 10 years, 26% per year. Pretty amazing, right? So Courtney, we were chatting before the presentation. You've been in real estate for almost 4 years, right?
Yes.
And Peggy, how long have you been in real estate for? 17 years?
As young as I look, almost 20.
Okay, so Peggy, tell me, and now I'm going to put you on the spot because we didn't sort of prepare for this. Tell me, if you can recall, when you started in real estate, how much do you think an average townhouse was when you started in real estate in Barrie?
Nick, do you want me to really tell you?
200,000?
No, when I first moved to Barrie 23 years ago, I remember, okay, I'll tell you about a detached home. I was in real estate maybe 2 years, and there was a little detached home, 3-bedroom, just your regular little thing. And it was $165,000. And they talked me out of buying it. Talked me out of it.
Oh my gosh. So, let's say at that time, a townhouse would have been $150,000. When I got into the business, townhouse was about $250,000. Now, Courtney, when you got into the business 4 years ago, a townhouse, I think you told me, was about $400,000, right?
Yep.
So and now they're $600,000 confidently, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here is that story in real life, right? This house was originally purchased in 2011 for $213,900. It was listed for $499,000. Really, this is the important number. It sold at $565,000. So what we want to do, like, everybody's very quick to look at this number and say, okay, well, they bought it for $213,000. That was a great deal. That person made money and that person could cash flow. But what I want to show everybody is this, okay? So as an investor, somebody could purchase this home today at $565,000, put 20% down, and have a mortgage of $452,000. The estimated monthly payment on that is $1,725. The taxes, according to the MLS, are $254, and this would basically carry for $1,980 a month. Now, if everybody thinks that the housing market is in flux right now, take a look at the rental housing market. Peggy or Courtney, do you want to comment on that? Because I know you guys are seeing it every day, but there are zero rentals on the market right now.
Zero. But do you know what I really want to comment on? The difference in what we hear is going on in Toronto and the difference that we hear that's happening here. When COVID hit in Toronto, their rents plummeted, their vacancies skyrocketed, and even now their vacancy rates are as high as they've been, except people, for some reason, are not willing to drop their rents. But they don't have the same thing going on that we have in Simcoe. Like, there is absolutely no question in my mind that Simcoe County is the best place for a landlord to buy a home. You can cash flow it and you can pick your tenants. Like, there'll be hundreds of you to pick from.
Yeah, we're renting a unit that we've had for years. It just happens to be vacant right now, and we've had to take down the listing 3 times just to slow down the number of inquiries. And and now what we say to people is, in our ad, please, when you reach out, tell us a little bit about yourself, right? Who's going to be living there? Do you have pets? Tell us your story. Do you have employment? Why choose you? Because renting an apartment is a seller's game right now. It's a seller's market, right? The landlords are in a selling position, right? So,
I have a tenant, Nick. If you want to give me a call later,
we'll talk. Absolutely. So on this property, I'll just go back to this slide right here, okay? So this is a semi-detached property. And now it has 5 bedrooms, it has a finished basement, it's a nice house. This house will rent for $2,500, no problem, okay? So when we take off, the estimated monthly carrying cost of $1,980 from the $2,500, that gives us cash flow, right? It's about $500. That $500 times 60 months is about $30,000. There's your cash flow over the 5 years, okay? Now, the principal reduction, without doing anything, as long as you pay your mortgage, the principal will reduce over 5 years by $56,000. Now, here's the best part, okay? We've estimated the appreciation on this home at 3% per year for 5 years, okay? So year 1, $565,000. Year 2, 3% more than that. Year 2, 3% more than that, and so on and so forth, okay? So total estimated return after 5 years is $177,000. So Peggy, I've asked you this before. If I said to you, you give me $113,000.
Yep.
And 5 years later, I'll hand you back your $113,000 in one hand, and in my other hand, I'll hand you back $177,000 as well. Would you take that deal?
I'm writing the check as we speak.
Yep, done, right? So this is fabulous return. Like, I mean, incredible, fabulous return. So this is cash flow, principal pay down, and appreciation. These are sure things. I mean, a 3% appreciation. Peggy, just remind me, what did we see last year on average in appreciation, like this time last year to this time this year?
Almost 50%, 40
right. So, on this house, somebody would make this in almost 1 year. We're saying that this is a very conservative 5 years, okay? This is the cash flow. This is the principal pay down. This is the appreciation, okay? So this 177,000 is in addition to you getting your money back, right? You put this 20% down, you still have this money, plus you're going to get this money. Okay. It's over 100% return in the 5 years. So here's a detached home. So listed at 569, sold at 611. Same sort of situation. This would have been like March. Okay. Now this home was originally purchased in 1993. So, you know, kind of like what we were talking about earlier there, Peggy, for $127,000. That's a 17% appreciation per year. That's just appreciation. Okay. Now, again, people are often saying to us, you know, yeah, but they made money because they bought for $127,000. So I don't think there's an opportunity here for us. Here's the same math. Okay. 611, 20% down. There's your mortgage payment at incredible interest rates. I mean, I did these interest rates at 2.25%. So interest rates exist less than that today, but those are conservative numbers. Mortgage, taxes, total payment. Now, Peggy and Courtney, if we had 3 of these for rent today, available, vacant, ready to go at $2,500 a month, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me. All 3 would be rented out tonight, wouldn't they?
For more money even, because people will be offering you extra.
In town, Barrie, good, clean, detached for a family. This house would rent very, very easily. Okay, so cash flow. So if you get $2,500 a month, it costs you $2,150. That cash flow over 5 years is about $21,000. You're going to pay the principal down on the mortgage without doing anything other than collecting rent by about $60,000. And again, we estimated the appreciation very conservatively at 3%. Now, I can promise anybody, if you bought this home for $611,000, 3% more than $611,000 would be next year, $629,000. So if anybody bought this house for $611,000, I will surely buy it from you next year for $625,000. And I think, Courtney, you would buy one as well, right? Yeah, no problem at all. So these numbers are extremely conservative, and that's really what I want to drive home. So 5-year total return on this property, $180,000. Again, Peggy, you give me $120,000. I hand it back to you in 5 years in this hand, okay? I hand you back your $122,000. Plus, in the other hand, I'm going to hand you back $180,000, okay? You give me $122, I'm going to give you back $300. That sounds like a great deal to me.
Yeah.
So our point here is at these prices, people can still cash flow. They can still make money, and there's still an incredible opportunity for ROI. I'm going to show you one more. So we were talking about townhouses. I would buy this townhouse 10 times over. It was originally purchased in 2005 for $155,000. They sold it for $565,000. And again, everybody's saying, yeah, but you know, I can't make money on that, right? They made 365% appreciation. They made 23% per year. I'm going to show you how, okay? $565,000 minus 20% down. There's your mortgage, monthly payment, property taxes, total monthly payment. Here's your monthly rental income. I dropped it down by a few $100s. I mean, I would still guess that townhouses are probably fetching $20-something $100, guys, like $2,300 to $2,500 for a good townhouse.
Yeah, I showed a client a lease, and it was $2,350, not including utilities.
For a townhouse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we estimated this at $2,200, and if you take 22 and subtract even the 2,000 here, and this is why I wanted to do this one as an example, right? It's only $200 a month in cash flow, right? And over 5 years, that's $13,000. The principal pay down is again $60,000, and the appreciation is $100,000 over 5 years. Now, let's go back here, right? Look at, they purchased it in 2005 for $155,000. So, you know, this house went up 22% per year. We're estimating this at 3% per year. So again, Peggy, you give me $113,000 and I'm going to give you back close to $300,000 in 5 years is the estimate, okay? There are many plentiful options still available for investors in this market. And I'll tell you, you telling me that townhouses are available and are, you know, in some cases not getting multiple offers and not holding off offers, that is music to my ears, because that sounds exactly like opportunity to me.
Let me show you.
sorry, Peg, I was gonna say, you just have to look for the ones that aren't super pretty, because I've shown a lot of really pretty townhouses, and some of them are even selling for 650 to 700, and they're
Wow.
like beautiful, like Allendale or Holgate, Frank Sweat, like these brand new, like they're still pretty ones are still selling for more, like Peggy was saying.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's those little
All
ones.
pretty.
All the pretty, everybody loves a little pretty house. So all the ones that need a lot of work, or maybe they're rough around the edges, that's where the gold mine is, because you can take that, renovate it yourself, and then rent it out, get amazing rent, and also increase your equity.
100%. Hey, Nick, can I share my screen for a second?
Yes, you sure can. Yeah, just you can go up to the top and just hit just stop my share and start yours.
Just knock you out, Nick. That's so
Yeah.
rude.
I know. It's okay though. I'm okay with it.
Boxing ring over here.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I just want to show you something because you asked me a question. And
Yes.
I remember when I got into real estate, there was a builder building on Ferndale right by where I live. And they were building, and I remember the townhouses there. So 341 Ferndale, I just picked it out of nowhere. And then I pulled the geo on it. And if you look here, in 2001, they were selling for 124,000, 416,000 from the builder. So 125 grand in 2001, and it's 100% worth 650 now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is just a really great live example of, how this all works, right? And again, to drive home our point here as well, it is just, there you go. To drive home our point here as well is, if somebody purchases that house for 650 today, there is still an opportunity for them to cash flow, for them to experience appreciation on that home, for them to have principal pay down on that mortgage, for them to make a lot of money over the next 5 years. Despite they're buying it at today's prices, they'll still make money over the next 5 years, because I'm positive over the course, like Courtney, at the beginning of your real estate career, when townhouses were $400,000, I'm sure at some point you heard from a buyer, there's no way that I can buy that townhouse for $400,000, cash flow, and make money. All the money that was to be made on that townhouse has been made, right? At $400,000, I'm out. And, Courtney and I were talking before this presentation. I said, Courtney, if there was, let's rewind, okay? If you could buy 5 of those townhouses 4 years ago, knowing that, they're $400,000 and they're going to be 600 in 4 years, we'd all buy them, right?
Yeah, of course we would.
And I'm going to mention that again later on in the presentation, because there's another slide that relates to, but really, really, really great relevant info to share, showing that even in today's market, even at today's prices, there is still lots of money to be made here. So, the money to be made is on these really great buys. I follow this real estate investor, Courtney, and he always says, cat pee smells like money to him. So he doesn't buy, right? Because you want to stay away from the pretty properties as a real estate investor, right? So, yes. I mean, there could be opportunities, no doubt. Those pretty properties will rent for more. They will, they'll demand a higher rent, but you will pay more for them as well. I believe somebody told me that in Westridge and Aurelia, that one of those townhouses sold over $600,000, like 650 or 660 or something like that. But it was pretty. It was painted perfectly. The floors were gray. The kitchen was white. It had granite countertops, and for that reason, it sold. All
right. I think are we moving on now to 102?
I think we should. Yeah, I think we should. So if anybody has any questions on these listings or any others, maybe even some of the properties that we mentioned tonight, you can reach out to the Peggy Hill team. Go to peggyhill.com. If you're looking to speak with me at Mortgage Wellness, you'll find me under the Trusted Partners portion of their website as well. But what we want to do is we want to move into Real Estate Investing 102. I'm going to share some of my mortgage secrets that are specific to real estate investors. Okay, so this is really great for real estate investors who, for example, currently have a portfolio. We talk to a ton of real estate investors every day with the new market. I'll say the new market because of the new prices, right? The new market appreciation and the new prices. What they're doing, Courtney, is they're rebalancing their portfolio. Yeah. So in a lot of circumstances, they're coming to us and saying, okay, I bought 4 townhouses 5 years ago, and I'd like to rebalance them. I'd like to draw out some equity, rebalance the portfolio, and buy one more. And the really, really, really smart investors, what they do is they look at the 4 that they bought for $400,000. They look at the one that they're going to buy for $600,000, and they'll add up all those purchase prices, divide it by 5 and say, okay, I have a balanced portfolio where I paid an average of X amount of dollars per townhouse. So we're seeing a lot of rebalancing right now for existing investors. We're also seeing a ton of new investors, people that are looking to grow a real estate portfolio. So if you missed Real Estate Investing 101, one of the primary sort of pillars to Real Estate Investing 101 is we talked about the rule of 5. And I know you probably remember that, Courtney, because I talk about it all the time. You can own a total of 5 properties and get financing very easily from most of the institutions in Canada. That's a primary residence, a cottage, and 3 rentals, or a primary residence and a cottage and a second home for your children at university and 2 rentals, or say a primary residence and 4 rentals. So, if you're just getting started into real estate investing and you're growing your portfolio, what you should really be doing is starting with the end in mind and saying to yourself, how do I get to 5 properties? So the people that are, maybe already have a few under their belt, they'll find tremendous value in these next few slides. And the people that are looking to get into real estate investing as well, they should find value in, sort of like forward thinking about the things that might be able to help them in acquiring a portfolio. So the first one that I have for you is the benefits of large multi-residential financing versus small unit residential financing. Okay, so what we're talking about there is like, when I say small, I mean single family, like we just showed, duplex, triplex, and fourplex. That's considered small. So fourplex and below is small, and 5+, those apartment buildings that you see, often the purpose-built stuff. You wouldn't believe it, Courtney. We every day have people who say to me, my name's Courtney and my friends are Nick and Peggy, and we want to come together. We have a few $100,000 each, and we found a really great like 12-unit or 15-unit building. We don't want to mess around with the onesies and twosies, the duplexes and the triplexes. We want one building. We want one asset. Courtney's husband is handy, and Nick's wife is really good at bookkeeping, and Peggy's married to Doug, and we know that Doug's really handy as well, and he does all that kind of stuff already. So this is a really great partnership, and for that reason, we want to buy a bigger building. So what I wanted to do is show everybody the benefits of both the small unit financing and the large unit financing. Okay, so on the left-hand column, what you have is small unit financing. Single families, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. So this is generally the stuff that we see with real estate investors, and especially new real estate investors. But a lot of people don't want to play in that space because, they're competing, like we mentioned with Peggy, with first-time home buyers, investors, downsizers, retirees, new to Canada, that sort of thing, right? So on the left-hand side, what we have is the small stuff. Single family, duplex, triplex, fourplex, up to 4 units, okay? Now, on this side, personal income will always come into play. Always, always, always. They're going to want to see your personal tax returns. They're going to want to see your notice of assessments. They want to see that you're working and everything else, okay? Now, let's just, quickly look over to the right-hand side of the screen. On those big buildings that we see, Courtney, like the 8 unit, the 12 unit, the 16 unit, the qualifying is solely based on the cash flow and performance of the property. That's all the bank is concerned with. So we get calls from clients all the time saying, I'm retired, I'm self-employed, I'm new to Canada, I'm on a disability pension, for example. I'm a retired police officer at, some trades and government employees are retiring in their 50s, some even at 50. I started as a police officer at 20, I'm retired at 50. I put in my 30 years. Qualifying on these properties is perfect for those sort of people because qualifying is solely based on the cash flow and performance of the property. So you want a good building, good cash flow. And, if you have employment challenges, if you're on a pension, if you're self-employed, if you show little income, absolutely the large properties are perfect for you. If you go to the left-hand side, if we play in that arena of duplexes and triplexes, personal income will always come into play. So if you have really great income, this is no problem. If you have challenged income, this is a great space to play in, okay? So really, yeah.
It's so backwards in terms of how
it is. And you think the bigger, the better, like the bigger, the more difficult would be, but it's not. Yeah. So, we often find challenges for, properties that don't have great cash flow. There was I had a client that reached out to me. There's a multi-unit property that just listed in Aurelia. It's really clean. It's really sweet. It's purpose-built, has separate units. but the cash flow is very low on it. Like, I mean, like $800 on one unit and $1,000 on another unit. And those units, as we know, are worth more like $1,500 and $2,000 now, right? So qualifying based on cash flow is great, but qualifying based on low or poor cash flow on a property with old tenants makes it really difficult. We call those legacy tenants. Like when you take over a building with a tenant that's been there for 20 years, it can be challenging for financing, right? And for buyers. Going back to the left-hand side of the screen, debt servicing, so like, again, qualifying for the property becomes more difficult with more properties. You're carrying, most banks will use like 50% of rental income on a property. So in the first one, it's you use half the rental income. It's okay to get into. The second one, now we're using half the rental income on the first one, half on the second one. When we get to property 5, it can sometimes get difficult, right? We have to plan ahead. When we meet with a new investor or an existing investor that's looking to rebalance, we say, okay, how can we get this investor to 5 properties? That's always the mindset that we use. If somebody says to us, I only ever want 1 property, we'll probably still plan for 2, because I mean, you always have to look for money before you need it, right? I mean, Courtney, how many conversations have we had? I mean, I love investing in real estate and you do too. How many conversations have we had with each other that are like, saw a property, want to buy it, what do I have to do? But if you would have multiple, right? I mean, like everybody that loves real estate does that. But if you look for the money before you need it and you build a plan, it'll be readily available when you need it as well. So, you want to really look forward and say to yourself, okay, how do we get to 5 properties? And let's work backwards, because again, debt servicing becomes more difficult with more property, right? Now let's bounce over to the the right-hand side of the screen. Personal income and debt servicing is secondary. I mean, like they want to make sure that you're a good person who will pay, but it's secondary to the cash flow of the property. Okay, so if there's any challenges with cash flow and income or pension, self-employed, we should be over here, right? Or if you only ever want to buy 1 property, we should be over here, for example. On the left side, again, most lenders like participators and not investors, okay? So I'm going to say that again because everyone's like, what does that mean? Most residential lenders, Scotiabank, TD, RBC, CIBC, they like participators, not investors. So let me tell you what a participator is, okay? A participator is someone who calls my office and says, I found a really great townhouse. I just saw it with Courtney. She sent me over to your office. It's this beautiful, pretty townhouse. It's $700,000. I think I can rent it for $2,500. So I'm interested in knowing how much I'm going to lose every month on that property. How much I'm going to lose, because they want to be in the game and they might want to be in it for the long haul. And a lot of these participators will say, well, it's better than putting money into an RSP every month if I'm going to lose $300. It's better than contributing to a tax-free savings account if I'm going to lose $200 a month. So most banks, not to say they love people that are going to lose money, but they like people, they don't mind people that break even. They don't mind if you lose $100 or $200 a month. They like participators, 1 person, 1 property who want, they want to invest in 1 property sort of thing. Now, I know you're going to love this part, Courtney. The bigger the deal, the better the rate in this world, okay? So when we look at large 5+ unit buildings, there's often tiered pricing. It's a mortgage amount of less than $1 million gets the highest rate. 1 million to 2 million gets a much better rate. 2 million to 3 million gets an incredible rate, and $5 million plus, cheap, cheap, cheap money. The bigger the deal, the better the rate. The bigger the deal, the more the cash flow, the more stable the deal is. The bank has to take back the property, right? If Steve and Susan don't pay their mortgage and the bank has to take back the property, they just assume the tenants. There's cash flow. Their mortgage is not in arrears. But if they have to take back the fancy waterfront home in Oro at $2 million, they're taking back a large asset that may take a long time to sell, and they might lose money on it. In the meantime, it's going to cost them a lot of money as well, okay? On the left-hand side, holding companies make things difficult. So a lot of people are often floored by this, right? They think, I'm going to invest in property, I'm going to open a holding company, and I'm going to put the rental property in the name of the holding company. There are few lenders in Canada that lend to holding companies. Now, in a personal name for a rental property, virtually every lender is doing those mortgages. Holding companies make things difficult, okay? The way the bank looks at it is they're kind of like once removed from the mortgage, right? Like a bank will say to me, Courtney, why do they want it in the name of a holding company? And if the answer is anything but tax planning, they're cautious, right? They're like, you know, if you say liability purposes or anything like that, they're like, well, what liability? Like, if I'm a bank, I want to make sure that I can collect my debt from Courtney if things go wrong. I don't want to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Ontario Inc. to get to Courtney to get my money, right? Now, on the right-hand side of the column, these lenders, they really value experience. So they want a resume. They want, you know, investors that have a big portfolio, a number of properties, and they've done it before. So these are sort of the differences between small rental properties and large rental properties. And, you know, getting into real estate investment 102, I really wanted to share this because, you know, these buildings, these properties seem to be plentiful right now. You can buy a townhouse, you can buy a duplex, you can often find a triplex, maybe a little out of Barrie right now. These buildings, these 5+ unit buildings are very scarce right now. I don't know if you've seen a lot of them, Peggy or Courtney. Like, have you seen, when was the last time you saw a 20-unit building that lasted any more than a week on the market, right?
If a week. And they're usually sold before they even hit the market.
For top dollar, and, you know, very low cap rates, which we'll talk about cap rates in another presentation. But for those that are tuning in and understand cap rates, they're selling in 3% cap rates. You know, cap rate is your rate of return if you pay cash for the building. So, you know, you put $2 million out for the purchase price of that property, and if you're at a 3% cap rate, it's like you earning 3% on your cash. So a lot of people would say, well, there's, you know, maybe bank stock that pays double that right now, for example. So, you know, these properties are very difficult to find right now. These ones are, there's lots of deals in the market for these
And
properties
can I
right
ask
now.
a question about cap
Please.
rate? What is the norm for Barrie?
5. 5's a great buy. 5% cap rate is a great buy. Now, for, you know, people who are more used to investing institutionally or stocks or you know, traditional investors, if you said it's a 5% cap rate, they would likely turn their nose up to that, because again, a capitalization rate, a cap rate, is the rate of return if you pay cash for something. So if Courtney had $1 million and she said, Nick, I'd like to invest it, what rate of return will I get on it? And I said 5%. She'd say, well, that's kind of crummy. Like, I can put it in an ING account for 1%, for example. Like, why am I going to tie it up in property for a 5% return and have to do all the work for it, right? The tenants, the termites, the toilets, the problems. I don't want any of that. So, you know, that's what we're seeing on these large properties is 5 or less. If you get a 5% cap rate, it's a deal. If you get a 3% cap rate, there must be another reason you're buying it. Maybe even, I mean, there are participators on this side of the equation as well. There are some people that just say, you know, we're still going to buy it. It still provides good cash flow, and I see the long term of this. All right, so point number 2, the advantage of alternative financing versus bank financing. Of course, whenever anybody calls me or my office, Courtney, what's the first question? What's the rate?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, what's the rate?
Right.
Right. So what we want to talk about is the advantage of, you know, I'll say the difference first between bank financing and alternative financing. Okay, so let's go to bank financing. We do this inside out every day. Our bread and butter is bank AAA financing. I mean, we do that hundreds of times per year. Some people will say to us, well, why would I use you guys instead of the bank? Well, because we're experts. We only do mortgages, right? We don't do checking and savings accounts and visas and loans and, you know, student lines of credit. We're only doing mortgages. And for that reason, we can offer a very high level of advice. So for bank financing or bank looking financing, they're looking for clean deals where the borrower has great income and low debts, right? Cookie cutter. They want to allow up to 5 properties in most cases. I mean, we're generally speaking, right? There's some lenders that will allow a few more, and obviously there's always some exceptions that can be made as well, right? But up to 5 properties. And if you don't know the rule of 5, if you didn't listen to the first presentation, we're actually going to repost that on the Peggy Hill Facebook page as well. And I think Charlotte, Tech Extraordinaire, is going to actually couple them together, 101 and 102, so you can actually watch both at the same time. You can look for that on YouTube. And what we talk about in 101 is the rule of 5. So again, building your plan up to 5 properties. And that's usually what most banks are looking for. Bank financing is perfect for long-term holds, okay? So like, you know, a 5-year term, a great interest rate, a 30-year amortization, you'll get great rates and no fees. But as we know, the bank is not your friend, okay? They're there to lend you money, and they're very cautious in their underwriting. So one deal, maybe your first deal, your second deal, bank financing is great. Now, what I really want to drive home, it's great for long-term holds. If Courtney calls me and says, I'm buying a townhouse, it's $600,000, I'm going to put 20% down. I found a great tenant. I know her from university. She wants to be there for 3 years. We put that into a 3 to 5 year deal, or maybe a variable rate, and we just hold it. There's no other plan than to just hold it, and we'd look for bank financing. Now, if Courtney calls me and says, I just walked into this townhouse, it's not pretty, it smells like cat pee, but it smells like money to her, and I want to buy it, and I want to put some money into it, and then I want to refinance it, take some money out of it, we call that a burn. I'm going to tell you what that is in a second, but it's a short-term plan, right? She wants to buy it, renovate it, and refinance it. A BRRRR is buy, renovate, rent it, refinance it, and oftentimes there's another R that says repeat. So we buy it, we renovate it, we rent it, we refinance it, we get our cash. You don't want a long-term mortgage for stuff like that. On alternative financing, these are 1 year deals, and we tell the lender that up front. If you tell a bank that you're going to get their financing and break that mortgage 6 months or 1 year later, they will instantly decline you, because the banks make money on long-term holds. So a lot of people will say to me, well, I'm going to pay them 2%. Yeah, they make money in the second 5 years that they have your mortgage. In the first 5 years, there's all kinds of acquisition costs. There's underwriting costs. They have to pay me or pay the branch to do the work. They have to set it up. They have to send it over to funding. They have to set up the pre-authorized payments. They have to set up the whole thing. In the first 5 years of a mortgage, the bank makes no money. They are hoping that Courtney just signs the renewal for the next 5 years. That's when they make their money. And frankly, that's why a company like ours gets beat on renewal. I mean, if Courtney calls me and says, my mortgage is up for renewal, I'd like to take it to a new lender for a better rate, the first thing I tell her is to call her lender and ask what they're going to offer, because they don't have to pay anybody in that equation, right? That's a long-term hold though, okay? So if I call the bank and I say, I have a great deal for Courtney, she only needs the mortgage for 6 months to a year, their appetite for that deal is not very high. If I call an alternative lender and say, I'd like a 1 year deal, they'll price that at about a half point higher. There might be a setup fee, like a lender fee, but these lenders value a relationship. They'll say, Nick, Courtney's a great client. We'll take her deal. We'll give her a great deal at about a 0.5 higher. And every single time she wants to do that, you bring her back to us, okay? And we'll finance her every single time, because she paid us and she showed us that she bought it and renovated it and paid us out just as planned and just as scheduled. Thank you very much, Courtney. Please come back every time, okay? So there is some real value to alternative financing. Perfect for short-term plans like flips or those BRRRRs, right? The buy, refinance. We call it flipping to yourself. So you buy it, you renovate it, you refinance it back to yourself. You get all your money back. It's also really great for self-employed, I don't know, maybe commission salespeople in the real estate industry or something like that. Flexible property limits. If you have 6 or 7 or 8 properties, we go to these guys. They're fabulous with real estate investors. And again, these lenders value relationships. So that's just a quick look at alternative financing versus bank financing. There are many, many, many lenders in this space. And Peggy, it's been a real learning opportunity for you and your team as well in our relationship, for you guys to learn all about alternative financing, because when people hear alternative financing, they hear double digits, right? Like when I say alternative, they hear 10%. And it's an education process to say, okay, the bank will offer 2%. These guys will offer 2.5, and they'll get it done quickly with no questions asked. We can divulge everything to them and they'll get the deal done fast, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the secret between bank financing and alternative financing. And, feeding into that is my third point. It's the magic of short and flexible mortgage terms. Now, Courtney, I'm going to use you as an example as well. And Peggy, I'm going to use you as well. But Courtney, more so you. So, I mean, young professional, really killing it in your career. Your husband is as well. You love real estate investing. Your trajectory is this way. I would be doing you a massive disservice if you came to me with a real estate investment and I put you into a 5-year term.
Yeah.
Because I know what you want to do with that house. We want to wait for it to appreciate. We want to pay down some principal. And then as soon as that market is high on it, we want to refinance it. We want to grab some equity. We want to buy the second one so that we can build you to 5 properties as quickly as we can. And Peggy, the same is true for yourself as well. You know
way my trajectory is going the same way as Courtney's. No way.
Maybe more like this,
Ah.
Peggy is also looking, she's in a situation where, she may take a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal. She'll take the high market price, but she'll sell hers and she'll cash it out, and then she'll buy a vacation property with it. And she'll sell hers and she'll cash out and she'll stick some money in the bank and invest in other places, right? So, taking a 5-year deal on an investment property is a little bit of a risky business. So we always want to try and have a long and deep conversation with our clients who are looking at purchasing rental properties to say, is your plan to get to 5 properties? Because I'll tell you, one of the most perfect scenarios in getting to 5 properties is Courtney buys her primary residence. She saves up some money for a second property. We buy that. We wait 2 years until both these properties appreciate. We refinance them both, and we take out enough cash that we can buy 2 more. We buy 2 townhouses. And then we put all 4 of these houses into a 3-year term. And when they've all appreciated again, we do it again and we buy the 5th property. And that is a perfect 5-year plan to get 5 houses. Now, Courtney, I'm not going to tell everybody how old you are, but by the time
not to worry about it.
Well, by the time Courtney's 50, I'll say, we'll be looking at a lot of the stats that I showed you tonight. Just like where I show you somebody paid $125,000 for a house and it's worth $600 now. If I fast forwarded to the time that Courtney was 50 and we executed that plan of 5 properties in the next 5 years, Courtney would be a multimillionaire, right? And that is a very easy process for anybody watching this tonight to achieve. And I can show you how to do it. It's the rule of 5. And for that reason, short and flexible mortgage terms are often the best option for young people, middle-aged people, and older people, okay? I'm just going to reshare my screen here. Sorry, I think I lost it there. Courtney, can you see my screen okay there?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then the last slide that I want to share here, and sort of the point that I want to drive home, is pay more, get more, period, okay? The most successful real estate investors that I've ever spoken to do not focus on the particulars of the deal, okay? They don't squabble over the price. They don't squabble over the commission that they're paying their realtor. They don't squabble over the interest rate as long as it makes sense, the appraisal fees, the banking fees, the additional legal costs, the setup costs, anything like that, okay? They focus on the deal. So you see my first point here. I said every deal I've ever witnessed that was successful is because the merits of the deal and not based on the interest rate or the fees or the commissions or the legal fees or anything else, okay? Short-term, high rates, fees, commissions, none of these things will kill the profits of a great deal. I mean, if you—
they're all deductible, for God's sakes. Why would they?
That's right. But as real estate investors, and especially as new real estate investors, we squabble over these things, right? We overthink the really, the fine print of it all. As I mentioned, the most successful real estate investors know the cost of good money that allows them to seize the opportunity. And Courtney, you remember when we did our prep for this call, I said, how much was a townhouse when you got into the industry? And you said $400,000. And I said, great. If 5 of them were for sale and you knew that now, would you buy all 5? And she said, absolutely. I said, what if you had to pay 6, 7, 8% interest on them? She said, I'd find a way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you'd never have to focus on the fees, the rates, the commissions, the legal fees, the appraisal costs, or anything else. If you focus on the merits of the deal, you will make money as a real estate investor. That's really what I want to drive home here, okay? Pay more, get more. Your interest rate will be more when you're buying a rental property. Your appraisal will be more. There'll likely be more competition because it'll be a townhouse or a condo or something that's in high demand. Pay more, get more. Look at the big picture. I mean, Peggy, your entire team is highly trained on this stuff. When I talk to one of your agents, they know how to pick out the perfect townhouse, the perfect condo, the perfect duplex that will appreciate, it'll cash flow. I mean, usually when one of your agents calls me and says, I have a client, I found a duplex, here's why I want to buy it, they have it all laid out, right? They have the merits of the deal, the big 10,000 foot view, right? And what we do is we drive home the great rates that we can get for them. And if they have to take that alternative financing, which is, less common, and there's fees and everything else, we look at the big merits of the deal. Does the deal in itself make sense? Will we make money? If it's a 2-year plan, are we going to make money? Is it a 5-year plan? Are we going to make money? If the answer is yes, we seize the opportunity and do the deal.
That was like my clients, Nick. I know we spoke with them before. They bought on Essa Road, $350,000, a fully detached, massive lot in an up and coming area.
So those are some of my favorite clients. I love those clients. And you and I both know what's going to happen with that house, right?
Oh, their plans are insane. Like they've got this beautiful addition. They're putting a second story, a huge detached garage. Like I'm pretty sure they're making a second suite now in the basement. Like they are going to make an absolute killing off of that because they bought for 350. They went with alternative financing because they tried the traditional and it didn't work out. And they went with it. They took the risk and I'm really
and I remember when, I still remember like it was yesterday, you referred me to those clients and I said to you, Courtney, the way to get this done is with alternative financing and they're going to pay for it. Tell me about the deal. And you're like, oh, listen, the deal. They paid $350,000 for a detached home in the south end of Barrie on an acre or a big lot anyway.
Big lot.
Yeah. And when I explain that to the clients, they're like, sign us up. We do not want to lose this deal at $350,000. So that's a perfect example. Absolutely. And, anybody that's listening to this call should think of that as well. Like look at a listing with the positives, with the rose colored lenses and say, okay, is there money to be made here? Right.
Yeah. And I think that I know that a lot of my buyers as well, that fear is, if there's a shifting in the market, it's the same as sellers when they want to sell at the peak of the market, or they want to buy at the lowest point in the market. And if the timing is right and it makes sense for you and the numbers make sense, it doesn't matter that in a month from now, you might have paid $10,000 less.
It's a fool's game trying to pick up top and bottom anyway. And Warren Buffett says, guys,
oh, I love this. I love this.
Not making money while you sleep is a new one, Nick. If you're not making money while you sleep, you're working for your money.
Yeah.
And you'll work till you die.
Yep.
That is it. I love Warren Buffett quotes, as you know. I thought you were going to tell me my other favorite one, which is when everybody's excited, be scared, and when everybody's scared, be excited. So there's a lot of people scared right now, right?
There are, and I don't want to quit this without asking you because I actually don't know what you're going to say. So the stress test came in June 1st.
Yeah.
And I'll give you my opinion of how it seems, and then you tell me what the reality is. So we expected the last week of March or of May to be crazy with people rushing in to get, these houses bought before the rules changed June 1st. And that didn't happen. Then June 1st came and it's still nothing. Like, it doesn't feel like anything changed. It doesn't feel like it affected anybody. And I don't know whether it didn't affect anybody or had these people, like these first time buyers, already given up on this market. So you tell me what the reality is.
Okay. So here's the great news. Okay. The stress test that was, that was implemented on June 1st is not new. I mean, there's some changes that are new on June 1st, right? But the original stress test came into effect in 2017. Now, if you Google stress test Canada, it will say that the stress test was implemented to cool an overheated market.
Yeah.
So much like why it was implemented this year, for example, okay? But the original stress test in 2017 decreased affordability by 20%. 20%. So if somebody was shopping for a $700,000 home, they're now all of a sudden shopping for a $600,000 home. They're shopping for $600,000, they're now shopping for $5. 5 went to 4, 4 went to 3, and the poor folks that were shopping for $300,000 homes then were kicked out of the market, gone. And maybe that was 400,000 at the time, right? The decrease was 20% in affordability. Now, this recent change to the stress test decreased affordability. I'm going to, for this conversation, say it's 5% because that's a nice, easy number to use. Okay, it's more like 3 to 5%. My calculations show more like 3%. So if somebody's shopping for a $500,000 home, they should now be shopping for a $475,000 home. Now, let's talk about this specific. So is the impact huge, Peggy? No. The biggest impact has already occurred, 20%, boom. And that's been around for 4 years. Right. This new change, a little bit down, okay? So if anybody was shopping at the top end of their budget for a home, they need to reevaluate their options. I mean, everybody needs to reevaluate their options. For our company, for our firm, we always build a little bit of wiggle room in there. So if somebody's out shopping with Courtney and we pre-approve them to 500,000, and with the new stress test, they're at 475, and Courtney calls me back and says, the house that we saw last week, it had an offer, the offer fell through, it's 500,000, can we put the offer in? We'll readjust it, see if we can max out their, that budget now. And in most cases, yes, we can make it work because they were pre-approved on a, slightly conservative level, right? So I don't expect the impact to be drastic. When they say that they want to cool the market using the stress test, I mean, they did that. You know how they do that, Peggy. We talk about it every day, I think. Yep. They put it out to the media. Yep. And then everybody panics.
I know.
Right? And you and I included. I mean, if I had more time, I could pull up the text message, right? Where you and I texted at 11 o'clock at night and said, oh my gosh, look at what's happening. And the really crazy thing that the three of us can all be on the same page with is there's no news wire that feeds from the government to the real estate industry or feeds from the government to the mortgage industry saying this is coming down the pipe. We learn about it the same way you do through CBC. Yeah. And it's all, if heaven forbid we have a client that reaches out to us before we have a chance to do some research on it, because the only way we learn is through the media, and then we, source it out through, the government websites and OFC and the Bank of Canada, or whoever's delivering the news, right? But it's not like we get a heads up on this. So I mean, we have been head in the sand trying to analyze what the true effects of this are. And the conclusion is it's minor, Now, specific to real estate investors, I'm going to share some real benefits here for you, Peggy. Check this out. So a real estate investor wants to buy a townhouse for $600,000. Yeah. The stress test went up. So that real estate investor can now only qualify for 5% less, let's say, $570,000. But here's the great part. How much do you think rent has increased in the last few months? Oh, right? Like those townhouses, I still talk to people every day and I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. You own a townhouse on Pickett. How much do you rent it for? And they're like, $1,200. I'm like, $1,200. But the tenant's been there for 5 years. And that was the rent 5 years ago. So yes, they may qualify for a lower purchase price because of the stress test. But as soon as I put in market rent on a townhouse for the real estate investor, all of a sudden they qualify for the $600,000 again, because the pace of rent, which we use, has paced up higher than the effect that stress test will ever have as well, right? It's great news. So, there's our 2 minutes on the stress test.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, look at the time, everybody.
7:30. We always go a little bit over, but that's okay.
This wasn't bad. 7:35. I think we're doing pretty good, right? And Courtney, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I think we're all set. As always, if you're tuning in, if you're watching this now, just reach out to us. You can reach out to the team, Peggy Hill team. You can reach out to myself or Nick. All of our information, is available for you. I'm Courtney at peggyhill.com, Nick at mortgagewellness.ca. Like anything you need, if you just want to have the conversation, that's what we're here for. If you're not selling, if you're not buying, and you just want the numbers and the conversation, genuinely, that's what we're here for, which is why we want to just give all the free information. So share the video, like the video on YouTube, smash it all over social media so you can share it with your friends and family if you want everybody to know about it. So thanks to everyone. Thank you for your time, Nick, as always. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your team's time as well. I hope everybody enjoyed it and took something away from it.
Yeah, and we will see you again in the future.
And
you got it.
Is on an upward trajectory. Don't anybody forget.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.